Hey everybody, Stephen Talbot here with another MTG video. Today I want to talk to you guys about Louisville, the Grand Prix that just went on last weekend on Saturday. Let's look at the top 8 and let's just kind of break down what happened. Even the top 16 maybe. We've got Esper, 2, 3, 4 Esper decks in the top 16. We have got Red Green Devotion, 2, 3, I guess Roll mid-range is not Devotion, but 3 in the top 16. We've got Mono Blue, and Mono Blue kind of falling out of favor. And I assume that is because the Mono Black decks have a lot of spot removal, and Mono Blue doesn't do very well with spot removal. Same thing with Esper. I'm pretty sure that these were kind of meta game decks that kind of people knew were going to be a little stronger against the Mono Blue, and also very good against Grohl, to an extent. As we can see though, Brian Bondoon, Todd Anderson, and Brad Nelson, all top 8ing, all with Mono Black. This deck was created by Todd Anderson, and it did amazingly well. Let's take a look at it real fast, kind of break down how it works. So the deck uses Underworld Connections and Erebos to basically just draw a crap ton of cards by either A, pitching the Pack Rat, or B, getting a bunch of removal, and then gaining life back with Whip of Erebos and Gray Merchant, kind of just restarting the whole thing. What's interesting about this deck is Pack Rat. I'm sure whoever watched it understands that Pack Rat is not it's really just a limited bomb from what we have seen if you drafted Ravnica. The cool thing about Pack Rat is it is actually a bunch of things. Pack Rat, when you make a token, it's a complete copy of Pack Rat. So what ends up happening is if you activate a Mutavault, which is any creature type, Pack Rat becomes +1/+1. If you discard a card, same thing. You can Whip of Erebos the Pack Rat back in, make a copy, and then start generating more tokens, and that is another huge thing. Also, being that it is an exact copy, Gray Merchant gets Devotion from it, and so does Erebos. So what we have is a really synergistic deck that draws a bunch of cards, removes a bunch of stuff, a bunch of permanents, especially the 4 Heroes Downfall and the 4 Thoughtseize. That's great against control because you can hit their Planeswalkers, and if they have a few creatures you can, but Thoughtseize can get rid of Planeswalkers, Supreme Verdicts, Detention Spheres, other removal spells. Against the red-green decks, it gets rid of some of their larger creatures and Planeswalkers, Aetherling, Blood Baron, things that are really hard to deal with for this deck. Can do all sorts of stuff. If we look at the sideboard, we kind of see Duress. We haven't seen Duress in a while since Thoughtseize became available. And why would you want Duress versus Thoughtseize? Let's look at the difference. They both cost 1 mana. They both are sorceries. They're both black, and Thoughtseize is, you have to lose 2 life to use it. Okay, so let's just pretend that 2 life doesn't really matter, which it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't because this deck gains a lot of life anyways. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. Non-creature, non-land. Okay? You choose a non-land. So, against the control deck, if you brought, say, these in, you might bring them in over Doomblade and Devour Flesh. The reason being is because there are a lot of spells you can hit with the rest against control, especially against Esper. You really want to not allow Esper to start pumping out their win conditions because they have a ton of them. So against Esper, you want to take their creatures away with Thoughtseize and Duress away their spells. Same thing as Erebos is also another amazing card in that matchup because your opponents can't gain life. Makes it so their Sphinx's Rev is just a draw spell, and you can draw a bunch of cards. And since against control you're not too worried about your life a lot, you can really utilize the Erebos' draw mechanic and your Underworld Connections draw mechanic, and because they will be killing your creatures, Whip is very important, along with the Pithing Needle to come in and stop maybe a Planeswalker or a Jace Architect of Thought or something along those lines. Against the green decks, you want to bring in Lifebane Zombies, you want to bring in Doomblades and more Devour Flushes. You want to keep them off the mana accelerants and their Dominant Raids. So you really want to kill their first couple of creatures and kind of make it just a one-for-one kind of match until you can start pumping in a bunch of creatures with either Pack Rat, or make it so Desecration Demon doesn't have too many sacrifice targets that are not profitable. Also, Nightveil Specters are a huge card in this deck. It really puts on the devotion, and because you can start stealing your opponent's creatures off the top and lands to cast those creatures, it really becomes this is a really good card in this deck. I mean, obviously it's in Esper, or it's not Esper, it's in Mono Blue, but this card is very versatile, and it used to it used to be a 50-cent card. Same thing with Pack Rat, and Desecration Demon was very low at times. I mean, this deck is really, it's amazed me how synergistic, how effective, and how good it is against many of the other major archetypes. Now, what deck could come along and start, beating this? And that's soon to be said. It's a little easier said than done to create a deck that is going to beat this, because this deck, like I said, is so energistic. It almost reminds me of Junk Reanimator, because of the fact that they can kill a Grey Merchant, you can whip it back into play, attack with it, gain a bunch of life, and kill them. Desecration Demon, the same thing. Nightveil Spectre, I mean, who doesn't want to put one of those back into play? Swing, steal a card, and stuff like that. Same thing against the green decks, because they do fight. They don't have a lot of removal. They have Polykranos, I don't really know how to say it. The 5/5 for 4 that you can pay, I believe, 1 green and double X to start eating things, and it gets monstrous to do with that. Lifebane Zombie is really good against that deck, against the green aggressive decks. One, it can block, and it has a lot of power to do so, but two, if you really get ahead on board, you can start just walking right through their creatures with Intimidate. This is kind of all I want to talk about, but I would one last thought on this deck is I would start picking up, if I were you guys, I would start picking up Nykthos. Shrine of Nykthos. Let's see if I can find a copy of it. It would be a regular devotion next. Almost guaranteed it's in this deck. Okay. Guys, I don't know how much this thing is. This is 848. I don't see this card going down. I think this card is freaking amazing, and I would, if you guys have any extra cash, buy yourself a play set. You can spec on them, but they're a little expensive, unfortunately. They're an amazing card. They've been sitting around 10. If this card drops down, guys, buy it up, because this card is only going to continue to see play over the next 2 years. I mean, you think about a monocolored deck, who doesn't want to say, well, I'm going to pay technically 3 mana, because you're tapping this card into 2 mana, to just ramp ahead of my opponent. This card is really, really amazing. I would suspect that it's going to see play for the next 2 years, guys. So I'd pick them up at 10, because I don't think they're going to stay at 10 for too long. So it looks like the mid is already at 12. Let's just go take a quick price check to see. Okay, so we have some lightly played ones and some near mint ones under 10. But anyways, guys, as always, like, subscribe down below. Leave me some comments on what you think about Monoblack and Nykthos Shrine of Nyx. I'm almost at 100 subscribers, and I will be doing a giveaway video at 100 subscribers. So if you are one of my first 100 subscribers, if you are the first 100, you will have access to this. Anyone who is not part of the first 100 will have access to the next one, which I will do probably at 200. Actually, I'll do it at 200. Alright, guys, until next time, Stephen Talbot, out.